thing too that, at least for me, feedback wise, I feel like whenever people or any journalists or even YouTubers, they tend to be very neutral in terms of information. I've never heard anybody said, I didn't like this bike, or I really like this bike. It's very flat plane. Here's all the information. You sway it where you want it to.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
But here's the thing: is there any particular reason why it's always laid out that way, where it's just, hey man, I got on this bike, I rode it, I didn't like it, kind of thing, or at least tell your story around as to why it's not? I think the reason why I'm kind of mentioning this, I feel like this is probably one of the reasons why a lot of younger YouTubers are somewhat coming on really strong on the scene regarding reviewing products, because you get the raw deal. I think when you talk about professional journalism, it's always on a neutral aspect. It's like, hey, it goes this fast, this much horsepower, suspension's this way, you decide what you like. I think when you have like a young guy coming through, or a guy that's just like not with any corporations, it's like, listen man, I jumped on this R1, it was very uncomfortable, love the sound. They'll tell you like straight off. So and again, I think this is a professional aspect. Like if you're doing professional journalist work, you can't do it in that manner. So I'm just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts here.
Well, no, I think you're right. I just ride the vehicles and just talk how I see it. I just say it how it is. And they don't really make very many crappy bikes anyways nowadays, so it's not that hard, but at the same time, like, a lot of the bikes, it's sometimes a little bit hard to get excited about them, because we've ridden on them for a million years and they're just old, so maybe that's why the excitement isn't there as much. But realistically, no one really makes any crappy stuff. Like that KTM 450 SMR, that was a decently fun bike. It was decently fun for sure. So, so it just, everyone's different. And then maybe the folks who are making the vids, they just don't have the experience. Like, Ben and Jerry's vanilla ice cream, like, oh my God, how did that thing that I put in my mouth, why was that so good? Oh my God, I've never had something so tasty. Well, they've never had vanilla ice cream before, so it's like the same thing as the guy riding the R1 or whatever. It's all the same, so it all just depends on your like perspective, Yeah.
So, by the way, Ebe is on now. For sure, he say what's
Ebe,
up.
What's up?
I think to some degree, I think it's kind of cool that you're mentioning this. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think when you have someone that's not as experienced with riding a wide variety of bikes or certain really high-end motorcycles, the minute that they get on is just super excited and they express that, and people take that as a, rock solid review. But when someone is calm and composed, which earlier I just said, oh man, you sound jaded, but more that I'm reading into it and listening to what you're saying, with a long-term experience of riding, experiencing multiple bikes, you can set aside the, oh my God, I'm being flown out to this area to ride this bike. You could really be composed and tell your thoughts and opinions about it, which is kind of cool. That's one really good way of seeing it.
Calm and composed is the way to do it. Like if you look at any professional person who's really good at their job, they're calm and composed. Do you think a guy flying an F-22 Raptor isn't calm and composed? Do you think a guy who's the commander of a nuclear missile submarine is not calm and composed? Like anyone who's really good at their job is calm and composed. That's just kind of how it has to be.
I agree.
If you're acting, well, then there's a time and a place to, turn up the volume or, be different. But, for all this stuff, I think calm and collect's kind of the way to do it. When I watch, my favorite YouTube personalities, most of them are all calm and collect.